Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Liquidtext webinar. We're going to wait for just a few more moments to let the folks come in and stand by, and we'll get started in just a few moments. Well, welcome everyone to Liquidtext's webinar. We'd like to wish everyone a happy new year. This is our first webinar of the year. There will be many more to follow. And today we're going to be focusing on the topic of new features that have been introduced into Liquidtext recently, as well as a deeper dive in some import and export features that folks have asked for in the past. The session is going to be run by Craig Tashman, our founder and CEO. And with that, let me turn it over to Craig.
Thank you so much, Stephen. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming. So as Stephen said, the plan today is to first, I want to give you guys a short, just 1 to 2 minute background on what Liquidtext is for those of you who are new here. And then we're going to spend the bulk of the time talking about deep dive on the import and export features of Liquidtext. How do you get content into the app? How do you get content out of the app? And then we want to go to Q&A. And in Q&A, I want to hear your questions about the features. I also want to hear your thoughts and requests for how you would like to see them expanded or improved. So to begin with then, let's start on just a little bit of quick background. So the problem Liquidtext is about is, we know computers help us find great content. We know computing helps us compose content. But how does computing help us gather, understand, and make sense of the content that we found? And the problem is, in a lot of ways, it doesn't. It turns out that about 80% of knowledge workers still prefer doing the reading on paper. So in a lot of ways, computing actually ends up making this process worse. Now, why is that? Well, a lot of the reason comes from the fact that the way we've tried to create reading on computers has largely been by replicating what we had on paper. But the problem is it doesn't work. When you try to just blindly replicate the paper experience on a computer, you end up inheriting the limitations of paper without really inheriting its benefits. So Liquidtext is different. Liquidtext is based on 4 years of my doctoral research at Georgia Tech, 2 peer-reviewed papers, a dissertation, and trying to really understand not how do people work with paper, but how does the brain work? What do we actually need when we're doing analytical reading? We're trying to make sense of content. And so our goal is to help you find information faster, take better, more reusable notes, and discover connections that you otherwise would have missed. And so we're available, of course, on PC, iPad, and Mac. We've had the luxury of winning quite a few different awards, including Most Innovative App of the Year from Apple. We were named World Changing by Law 360. But the most exciting part of the presentation is this, to talk about how you get your content into and out of Liquidtext so you can take advantage of all these great features. So the first thing I want to mention is the file formats that we support, just as a starting point, right? So Liquidtext supports PDF files. We can also import and actually export docx, sort of Microsoft Word format. We can import PowerPoint files. We can import web pages, JPEGs, PNGs, and photos. So with that, let's go to actually doing a little bit of a demo here. So we will go over to the Liquidtext app. And to start with, let's say I want to create a new project. Now, the way you create a project in Liquidtext is you select some file that you want to start working with, that you want to start reading. And so in this case, you'll notice on the left, we have open file, open web page, open picture, and the reference managers. So we'll talk about each of these. But to start with, we'll begin with open file. So I'll tap here. And of course, what happens is it brings up the standard Apple document picker window. Now, one thing I want to mention at the outset, I'm doing this demo on my iPad, just incidentally. These things largely work the same way on Windows and very, very closely, very similar on Mac. But there are some differences. So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to ask during the Q&A, or of course, you can always contact our customer support. So to begin with, one of the things that you notice here is we have a bunch of different files, and we might want to import several files at once. This is something people often ask us about. How do I bring a bunch of files into Liquidtext at the same time? And there are a couple of ways. If you're in this Apple Document Picker window, we can tap the Select button over on the top right. And then let's say we want to start projects on patent law and honeybee diseases. So I can just select both of these and click on Open. And it'll download them and create two new unopened projects based on these two files. Now, you might say, could I import a whole folder of material at once? And unfortunately, Apple made some changes to the way the file picker works on the iPad. And so right now, you can't import an entire folder on the iPad at once. We're hoping to be able to get that working and sort of figure out what Apple changed there. But on Windows, that will work right now. Okay, so now let's look at another way you might create a new project by opening a web page. So if I tap on Open Web Page here, it brings up a little web page preview. I can go select something interesting. But another way that I can do this is maybe I want to start from Safari. So maybe I'm in Safari, I'm reading the homepage of Wikipedia here, and I want to bring that over to Liquidtext. So I can tap on the Send button in Safari and tap on Liquidtext, and it brings me back to the app and asks me if I'd like to add this web page to an existing project or a new project. So in this case, I'll say add to a new project. It brings up that same web page, and I can select import, and there we are. It imports the web page and creates a project around it. Okay, excellent. So to continue the demo, let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's open up one particular project, dig a little bit deeper, and look at how we can add more files to a given project. So let's open the Bee Afflicting Disease project here. Okay, great. We got it open. All right. So of course, one of the most powerful ways to use Liquidtext is to import multiple files into the same project, right? So let's say we're studying honeybee illnesses. We might have a research paper about some honeybee illnesses. We might have other research papers about different cures. We might have observational data from beekeepers. And we want to bring all these into one project so we can cross-connect them. We can view them side by side. We can bring the notes into the workspace and things like that. So from that point, let's look a little bit at how we might do that. So first of all, we can tap over on the left here. We have the list of documents that are part of your current project. In this case, so far, of course, it's only one, Bee Afflicting Disease. But if I tap Add Document, it gives me a list of all the places where I can pull in other files from or other documents from. So of course, the first one, Liquidtext project, is simply importing from another Liquidtext project you already have. And of course, document, file, web page, image files, reference managers, we'll go through all those. To start with, though, let's begin with the reference managers, because this is what we've actually just added recently. So we tap on reference managers, and you see we have two choices, Zotero and Mendeley. So we have custom integrations with Zotero and Mendeley to let you import files from them and export files back to them. So let's click on Zotero over here. Now, what this is, of course, is our custom Liquidtext integration, listing all the files that you have in your Zotero account. And so I can tap them, and you see on the right, it gives a little preview of some information, some of the metadata about the file. And if I want to import a couple of them, I can simply tap the check boxes, just like that. We, of course, have a search bar on top and all the things that you would expect. So if this is good, if I like what I've selected, I can tap on import. And here we are. It pulls the files right in. Great. Now, another way that you might want to pull, actually, before I go on to that, let me just mention something new that we've added. You'll notice over on the top left here, it says read insightful. If I tap on this one, it says keep insightful. These are tags on your document. So if I tap over here, you see it gives me all the metadata about this document. It gives me the document title, it gives me the tags, authors, and so on. And the idea here is you might want to add tags to your documents and so that you can filter them and so that you can simply send those tags back to your reference manager. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But now let's say we want to add some more files to this project. And maybe I don't want to do it by going from the reference manager. Maybe I want to do it by drag and drop. And so what we can do is we're going to actually bring up the Files app here. And here we have it. And what we might do is, let's say we start pulling hive inspection and common honeybee disorders. And I can just drag these two files right into my document. And you see right there, Liquidtext brings them right in. So again, if you already have a project open, sometimes the easiest way to get your files in is just drag and drop. And of course, this works on iPad, PC, and Mac. Okay, so now another way that you might want to get some files in is, of course, the web browser. Now, I showed you how you can create a new project from the web browser, but actually one of the really nice ways to do it is within an existing project. And so let me show you an example of this. So first of all, of course, you can tap Add Document, go to Web Page, and you get our standard web page preview. You can our web browser pop-up. You can navigate around, pick the files that you want, and so on. But what sometimes is more convenient is to bring up a floating Safari window like this. And so, for example, we might do a search for honeybee Wikipedia. And we'll just import that. Now, there's a couple of things I'll show you here. Now, obviously, we can import this whole web page, but sometimes maybe you don't want the whole web page. Maybe you just want one picture or one piece of text. Well, Liquidtext supports that as well. So let's suppose I want this poor little honeybee picture here. I can tap and hold and drag this directly into the Liquidtext workspace, just like that. Likewise, if I see some of the text here, maybe we select this, I can do the same thing. I can drag this from the web page right into the Liquidtext workspace. Now, one of the really wonderful things about this is that it actually includes the link. So for example, we'll just go to another page here. If I go back to Liquidtext and I tap this link, there we are. It brings me back to that source of the honeybee. So this is great. It makes it very, very easy to pull in just the bits of the web page that you need. But again, if you want the entire web page, just as you would expect, you can tap the little dots here, go to Share, select Liquidtext, add to current file. It brings up the web page, and I can tap Import, and it pulls it right in, just like that. Okay, so the idea is we want to make it really easy, give you a lot of options for getting web content into Liquidtext. Okay, so now let's talk about importing images. So if I go to Add Document again, you'll notice I have image files as one choice. Let's dig in a little bit more. So there's two ways I can get images into Liquidtext. I can select existing ones that are already on my iPad or my PC or Mac, or I can actually click Scan and use the camera. And this one, this particular feature only is available on the iPad right now, of just directly taking pictures of pages of a document, and the app will flatten them and straighten them and directly pull them right into your project. But let's use a different approach right now. Let's go to Insert Picture, and we'll insert picture from File Browser. We'll go to Images here, and let's say we select Pick One. And look what it does. It pulls that right in here as a new image. And we'll go and insert a couple of more. Pick two. And then we'll just select 3, 4, and 5 in bulk. Okay. And so now we have all of our pages in here. And I'll just rename this to, let's say, honeybee transcript. It processes it and it imports it. Now you'll notice something really interesting after I pulled this in. We have a little OCR pop-up on top of the page. So let me actually talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we'll come right back to that. So before that, though, another thing I want to show you is we can add a document by actually importing from another Liquidtext project. So for example, if I tap import from another project. Maybe we go to a Wikipedia article on beef. And so we might, for example, select beef Wikipedia, and it imports it. And what you'll notice is it imports not just the original document, but it imports the document with all of the highlights and other annotations. So this is a great way to share documents across your different Liquidtext projects. If there's a common one that you use over and over, you can simply import it from one project into another. Okay, excellent. So now let's go back to that honeybee transcript that we were working on a moment ago. So you'll remember that this was a scanned document. One of the things that we added recently that we're very excited about, of course, is OCR support. So because this is a scanned document, Liquidtext will automatically try to begin OCR and do what we call instant OCR. This is available on the iPad and on the Mac, not yet on PC. And so I can, for example, select some text and just pull it right out into my workspace like this. Now, let's dig in a little bit more. If we want to actually search this document, well, the instant OCR isn't going to do it. So we'll go to Configure Document, and we'll go to OCR Text Detection. And what we see in here is we have a few different options. We first of all have that instant OCR that I mentioned, but we also have the option to do a slower and higher accuracy OCR. And this is also what you'll need if you want to search the document. So let's try that. Full document OCR. You can set the accuracy versus speed. You can also remove prior OCR data, and we'll just run that here. Okay, excellent. So now, for example, we can well, in this case, only one result. Let's do something a little bit better. Okay, there we are. And so you see now we can actually do searches through this document as well. Very nice. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the metadata. So this is a document, of course, that I just created here. And in contrast to some of the documents that I pulled in earlier from the reference manager, which had all this great metadata, my honeybee transcript, since I just created it from scanned images, of course, it has no metadata. So one of the nice things with Liquidtext now is you can tap here, and of course, you can add metadata. So I could add authors, let's say, Feld. Maybe I can also add some tags. And maybe we say we want to keep this around because it's important. And you'll notice now a little keep tag appears under honeybee transcript.pdf. Now you say, well, what can we do with these tags? Well, the first thing we could do with these tags is, of course, see them as we jump from document to document. The other thing with them is all of this metadata is exported back to your reference manager when you save your content to the reference manager. I'll show you a little bit more about that later. But the other thing you can do with these tags is you can filter by them. So you'll notice we recently added a new option in your document list, filter documents. So for example, if I want to find all of the documents that I've said I want to keep, I can just write keep, and it filters to only show me those documents that have keep as a tag. I can also filter by title and other document metadata as well. So this is particularly for folks who have a large number of documents, hundreds, in some cases, thousands in one project. This is a tool to just make it a little easier to find the one that you're looking for. Great. Now, another tool that we have to make it a little easier to deal with large numbers of documents, which is sort of related to this, is organizing your documents into folders. This isn't quite an input-output thing, but I figured I would just give you guys a quick demo of it for those who haven't seen it before. So for example, if I want to take some of these key points here and group them into a folder, I can just hold my finger for a moment here. On the Mac or the PC, you would just right-click or control-click and tap on Add to New Folder, and we'll just start with New Folder. I think that's fine for now. And we'll just drag a couple of these into the new folder. See, now we can just collapse the folder when we don't need it, expand it when we do. Just a little helpful thing to keep all of your materials organized. Okay, excellent. So now let's go on to exporting content. So exporting in Liquidtext actually has a few different options, quite a few options. So let's start by talking about what we call auto export. So if you've imported content, let's say a PDF, into Liquidtext from any source that the app is able to regularly access, then the app can automatically send your annotations back to that source. So for example, let's say we go back to this document here. We pulled this in from one of the reference managers. Let's say I go and highlight this point in yellow and maybe highlight this point in purple. Okay. Now, let's say I would like to send these annotations and my comments and my metadata back to Zotero. How on earth can I do that? Well, the beauty of it is all I have to do is just tap home. And Liquidtext will say, would you like to send all of these annotations back to the source, back to the original source PDF that this PDF came from? And this works for Zotero, it works for Mendeley. It also works for anything that uses the standard Apple file picker. In this case, things like Dropbox, Box, and so on the iPad. If you're working on Windows, then of course it's Zotero, Mendeley, as well as all of the file services supported in our Windows app, including Dropbox, Box, OneDrive, and so on. So all I have to do is just tap send and it'll go right back. In this case, I won't send it because you guys get the idea. All right, let's go back in here. Let's see. So the other thing I'll mention is if you ever want to change your settings with auto export, you can just tap the send button on the top right, and you'll notice you have auto send settings. And here you can say, do you always or never want to send your changes back to the original file, and both on a project level and a global level. So just making it a little bit easier, especially if you always want to send it. This way you don't have to keep clicking yes each time that you close a project. Okay, so now let's dig into the other ways that you can send material out of Liquidtext. So let's go to send again, and we'll go to PDF file. So PDF file tries to take all of the materials in your current Liquidtext project, all of the documents you have, as well as all of the content in your workspace, and organize it together into a large PDF, or actually into a collection of PDFs, depending on what your needs are. So let's walk through these. So let's say we select all of these files here, let's say we want to also include the workspace. One thing I'll show you is we'll tap on options here. And here you can see all the different options for exporting your workspace. Now, one of the big ones is how do you arrange the pages? In many cases, people have large workspaces with many thousands of comments and excerpts in them and notes. And the question is, do you want to try to cram all that into one page? Do you want to just try to cram it into a column? Or do you want it to kind of match the page backgrounds of the workspace? And so here you can simply select the one that makes the most sense for you. In this case, we'll go to match pages to workspace background pattern. You'll notice there's an option for whether the background is filled in, and then there's this bottom option around link workspace objects to documents. This is a really powerful option because what it says is if you've, let's say, pulled an excerpt into the workspace, do you want to link that excerpt back to the original source document in the PDF that you're exporting? So it's a little abstract. Let me walk you guys through a demo of that. So again, let's export this entire project here as a big PDF. And then we'll go to another app. We'll go to down here, and we'll go to Adobe Acrobat as an example. Okay, and so here we have our Liquidtext project. You'll notice all of the PDFs that were involved in this project have been exported here. And you'll notice the workspace, simple as it is at the beginning. So the thing I was telling you before, where it's possible to actually link the excerpts to the source document, even in the PDF export, here's where you can see that. So for example, if I tap on this third bottom excerpt here, it takes me right back to the source location, right back to the point in this PDF export where that came from. So it means your workspace, even in its exported PDF form, is still interactive in Liquidtext. Okay. Excellent. All right, so now let's talk about a different type of export situation. Let's talk about exporting to the reference manager. So in the workflow that I've kind of described so far, the situation is, let's say you've brought your content, brought your files and your documents into, let's say, Dropbox or into Box or into Zotero, and you want to bring those into Liquidtext and then, modify them and then maybe send the annotations back to the original location. But what if you're kind of going about it a different way? And some of our users talk about this, that what they really want to do is bring their files and their documents straight into Liquidtext, right? From the web or from wherever their source is, from email, whatever, bring it right into Liquidtext, annotate it, mark it up, and then from there, send it to, for example, a reference manager. How would you do that? Well, here's how you do it. You tap send, go to PDF, and let's again select all the files that we're interested in. In this case, we won't include the workspace. But at the top, you'll notice there's the option to export as a single PDF or a collection of PDFs. If you say, I want to send all of these PDFs to my reference manager for the first time, let's say they've never been there before, we generally recommend you click on collection, and then you click on export. It prepares them all, adds in all the annotations. Now I can tap my reference manager, tap Zotero, brings up my Zotero box. And now if I tap upload, it's not going to simply send one large PDF. It's going to send individually all of the PDFs in this project to Zotero. So this basically means that you can, in this example, use Zotero as kind of a longer term store of content, but have Liquidtext be the critical path through which things go to get into Zotero or Mendeley. So in this case, we won't bother actually doing it because I think you guys get the idea. Okay, so finally, let's talk a little bit about notes outline. So if I go to send here and I tap on notes outline, what Liquidtext does is it takes all of the highlights and all of the excerpts that we've created and brings them together into a single large, in this case, large docx file. And so on the left here, we have all the options for what this process is going to look like. So for example, we can include inline citations or not include them. We can include the full sources of comments. We can include the item types. So for example, it says highlight next to the onto the left of each highlight. We can turn that off if we don't need it. We can select whether we want to include highlights, margin comments in the document, as well as comments or excerpts from the workspace. Now, let's say we decide to include all of this. I can simply tap export. It forms it into a docx, and I can go send this right over to Word. And so the beauty of this is that if Liquidtext isn't kind of the final destination for your work, if you're, let's say, going to prepare a finished linear document in a word processor such as Word or Google Docs, we make it really easy to get your content out of Liquidtext in a linearized form into the text editor of your choice. Now, we've had some, we'll go back here. We've had some folks say that they would love to be able to do this with Markdown. That's not available right now, but we're working on it. And we're actually hoping to be able to get you guys a Markdown export in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll keep you guys in the loop as we get closer to that. Okay. Now, this is really it for the demo in terms of the input and output, but there is one last thing I would love to show you guys. Let's say we go and, well, actually, maybe looking at it differently. I want to show you a sneak peek of something that we're planning to release in about 4 weeks, and you'll learn more as it gets a little bit closer. But we've decided that, or we've heard from a lot of folks that it would be great to give you guys a way to select your search results. So, for example, let's go back to that honeybee transcript, and maybe each time that that the word, we'll do a search for the word gel here. Maybe each time the word gel comes up, you'd really like to highlight that, so you can quickly see them later on as you're skimming your document. Well, right now it's going to be kind of a pain, right? You'd have to manually select each instance of the word gel and then, select the highlight. So we said, maybe we can help you with this. So if you've done a search, you can tap a new select all button and it selects all the instances of it. And you could, for example, then just tap highlight and it highlights them all. And so we're going to be taking this even a step further. So for example, if you've tagged a bunch of things, you could select all, you could do a search for that tag and select all instances of that tag and then bring them all into the workspace together. So these are the first of some features to let you start operating on your notes and on your content in Liquidtext in bulk. But we'll have more to say about that a little bit later. For now, let me pause and turn it back over to Stephen and answer any questions that we may have.
Thank you, Craig. So I'm going to start going over the questions that have come in from our various participants. So Nicholas would like to know how we can use the new feature for importing PDFs from Mendeley and what are the advantages? Why is it useful? He also asks if it's possible to import tags from Mendeley.
Yeah, thank you, Nicholas. So first of all, yes, if you want to import any content from Mendeley, same concept, tap add document, go to reference managers and just tap Mendeley. Let's see, we have set it. Okay, beautiful. So you could just import this in exactly the same way. You notice as you tap these guys, it gives all the information, includes the tags and everything. And so just like with Zotero, if you have imported something, of course, it does include the tags as well as all of the other metadata. So the idea behind this is that if you have a large repository of content in Mendeley or Zotero, the workflow of bringing that into Liquidtext can be a real pain, right? You have to manually drag the files into a file browser of some kind. Then you have to go to Liquidtext and import them. And then when you're done, there's no easy way to get those annotations back to Mendeley or Zotero unless you literally go back to the apps and say, okay, Mendeley and Zotero, re-import these PDFs again. It's a very high friction workflow. The idea here is you can keep using Zotero or Mendeley as sort of your repository of your PDFs. Bring in what you need into Liquidtext, do the analysis, do the review, but have those annotations immediately go back to the reference manager when you're done. So I hope that answers your question. Did I, Stephen, did I miss any part of that?
No, I think you got it. I think
Cool.
let's see if Nicholas posts a follow-up, but let's
here.
continue to move down the list. An anonymous attendee is asking, will it also attach the link for an image? I think this went to when you were showing an image import.
Yeah, so right now we don't actually have the link attachment for an image. As I recall, and we coded this a little while ago, but as I recall, Safari did not give us the link information. And we really wanted to include it, but it didn't seem to be available in iOS. It's possible Apple changed something there. If this is something that would be important for you, definitely let us know. And just as a general rule, we really want to hear your feature requests and your workflows, the ones that we're supporting well and the ones that we could support better. So after this, we'll be giving you guys who aren't already there, we'll be giving you an invite to our forum, and we'd love you to post about the ways you'd like to see us improve this, the features you'd like us to add, the places where we're already supporting you well. You can post on the forum, or you can always contact us at support@liquidtext.net. But again, I don't think that's possible, but if it's something that would be important for you or other folks, let us know. We can engage with Apple and see if things have changed.
Okay, Rodika asks, can I draw a table in the workspace and fill it with words from the text, such as creating a glossary?
That's a really good question. Thank you. Right now, no, you can't. But we've been thinking and talking about adding table features to Liquidtext in a couple different ways. And I'll kind of just give you guys a little preview of our thinking on this. So we've been thinking on the one hand about adding the ability to group excerpts to form outlines, right? So right now, of course, you can pull out excerpts and connect them, and they connect in this very nice, very free form way. But we've been thinking that it would be advantageous to let people group these together in a more structured way and actually form real outline hierarchies that you can expand and shrink and so on. And the other thing we've been thinking about in the same vein is to let you build actual tables in the workspace that you can just drag and drop items into. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about the use case you're envisioning there. And for all you guys, I'd love to hear more about your thoughts of, what additional structural components in the workspace would make your lives easier.
And again, I would note, as Craig mentioned earlier, that we would encourage you to join our forum, our user community, which is a great place where you can interact with Craig and your colleagues associated with discussing these features and letting us know how we can make Liquidtext better. We will be sending, along with the notifications of the recorded copy of this presentation, the link to be able to join the forum if you're not already a member. So that said, the next question, Ulrich asks, how to remove all Liquidtext annotations and marks from a PDF and send it back to the original source.
Remove all Liquidtext annotations and marks from a PDF and send it back to the original source. I don't think there's actually a way to do that right now. you could of course, manually remove the highlights and erase the ink, and then close the project, and it'll give you the option to save it back to the original source. But we have at this point no bulk removal annotations feature. I'd love to hear more about your use case and your need for that. If it's something that a lot of people need, we can certainly add something like that.
Okay. Now, please pardon me if I pronounce this wrong, but Ephthimios is asking, is it possible to import PDFs from Mendeley that are in my shared groups and not in the My Library section? I can't see those files when opening the import from the Mendeley option.
That's a good question. And on that one, I'm actually not sure. If you're not seeing it, then the answer is probably right now, no. I'll tell you that unfortunately, Mendeley and Zotero have a lot of limitations on what we can access through those APIs, right? So with Zotero, it really has to be, using Zotero storage. If you use a third-party storage with your Zotero, they simply don't give us a way to access that. In Mendeley, I haven't heard this question come up before. I would suggest contact us at support@liquidtext.net. We'll get that routed to our internal Mendeley expert, and we'll see if it's something that can be supported. And if not, we'll at least be able to contact Mendeley and ask if they can open up their APIs.
Okay. Kendra asks, is there a way to put a starting page number on the document in Liquidtext so that the citation might better match a journal article?
Thank you, Kendra. The answer is right now we don't have that, but we're planning on adding that probably in our, if not our mid-February update, then certainly our mid-March update. So that should be coming very soon.
Sergio asks, are we planning to include EndNote among the reference managers?
That's a good question. Thank you, Sergio. We've gotten basically we've spoke to a lot of our users, and we even conducted an informal Twitter poll. And what we found over and over again was Zotero and Mendeley accounted for the vast majority of folks. Now, I hate to say it because, when I was in grad school, I actually used EndNote as well, and I like it. But the reality is right now, it just seems to be too small a minority. And so, we're thinking about it, but I would say just contact us, tell us you want it. That'll kind of raise its priority a little bit. And once we get enough people saying they want it, then we can add it.
So along the same line, Mark asks whether DevonThink integration is on the horizon.
That's a good question. Not an explicit integration with DevonThink, but we know that a lot of folks who are using personal knowledge management tools and mind mapping tools and things of that sort are looking for tighter integration with Liquidtext. And what I would say is there's actually some really, really great discussions on our forum about integrations with quite a few different mind mapping tools and PKM tools, and the kinds of things that folks would look for. I would say right now, the sort of top thing on our list, and you'll see this kind of as we talk about this at length in the in one of the discussion forums, is Markdown export, and also in creating links in Liquidtext. Well, how do I describe this? Being able to copy a link to a Liquidtext object, right? So right now, if I click on this excerpt, I have an option to copy it. What we're going to be adding very shortly is copy link to this excerpt, right? And also when you do an export of your Liquidtext notes, it would include links back to the objects in the original Liquidtext project. This is kind of what we're thinking now as a step one towards a tighter integration with your personal knowledge management ecosystem and other tools like that. Now, in terms of more explicit integrations with mind mapping tools, I've heard some folks have been asking if we could do things like that. That's probably a little further out, but at least creating Markdown export and back and bi-directional links is kind of our first step in this vein. But we'd really, really love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your workflows. Just to emphasize again, we really want to make Liquidtext fit very nicely into the kind of product ecosystem that you're using.
Okay. Let's see. Arnie gives a +1 for DevonThink. Frank
Thank you,
would
Arnie.
like to know if there's an option to view multiple pages at once. That is sort of a zoomed out view with all the document pages in a matrix.
I see. No, not right now. We've mocked that up and we've started talking to users about it. So far, it's a nice to have, but people are generally less excited about that than some of the other features we're thinking about. Just in case you don't know, we do of course have pinch collapse like this, so you can see two different pages side by side. Certainly not the same thing, but for comparison, it's really wonderful. I would say definitely go to our forums, let us know this is important for you. And just to also emphasize, when you guys go to our forums, if you guys talk about features that would be helpful and what you'd like, let us know as much as you can about your workflow, right? Just telling us you want a feature is helpful, but if you tell us you want a feature and why, how it would fit into your workflow, what you do, it makes it a lot more actionable for us because it lets us kind of tie it into the larger body of requirements of all of our users.
Okay, an anonymous attendee says, I have a folder with a bunch of PDFs. I would like to have all those in a project. Please elaborate on the methods, import folder, open file browser, etc. What is the best way forward using Windows?
Okay, if you're using Windows, you should be able to just drag and drop the folder, right? Open the project, drag and drop the folder right in. And I believe that should actually work fine. If you have any problems with that, of course, always contact our support. But on Windows, full folders should be supported. If you're on an iPad, then again, like I demonstrated, it's going to be slightly more annoying. You'll have to go to, let's say, add document files here, and you'll have to actually select them all and import them like that. But selecting the folder itself isn't really possible. But again, on Windows, it should be. You shouldn't have any problem there.
Okay, we got another +1 for Devin Think, also Muse.
Okay.
The votes are coming in.
Good. Thank you. Please keep them coming.
Okay, Anonymous also asks, can we create standard tags that can be used for different projects without creating new ones every time?
That's a good question. Right now, we don't have we don't have cross-project tag awareness. We're thinking about adding some things like that. So yeah, please let us know. We're thinking about doing a few things around default workspace. Well, Windows actually already has default workspace. They're planning on adding that soon on iOS as well. And having a list of default tags that are available across projects is certainly something we'd be open to. Just please, post it on the workspace, let us know more, and we'll see if we can do it.
Okay. Fotini says, I am new to Liquidtext, and as a conference interpreter, I need to use Greek fonts. In Liquidtext, it works wonderful. When I tried to export my document, the Greek annotations look more like gibberish. What do I have to do to avoid this?
Oh boy. We'll need to know a lot more details. I'll tell you, if you're using Windows, Windows just makes a lot of things complicated around fonts. And also, I would need to know, when you say export, do you mean export as an outline or export as a PDF? So I would say on that one, that's probably your best bet, is to contact support@liquidtext.net. Tell us all the details, include a sample project if you can. I can't make any promises, but we'll get it routed to the right folks in the engineering team and see what we can do.
Okay, Bernhard asks, is it at present possible to do what Craig did at the end of the presentation, make permanent the result of a search in the form of highlights?
Thank you, Bernhard. No, not right now, but that's actually going to be included in our mid-February update. So that should be available to you in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, Radhika asks again, I am an interpreter translator. My colleagues and I have been using the app for meetings, prep, terminology-wise. Glossaries are our life. So it would be great if you could add tables.
Well, thank you. I would, it's a hard way to have a conversation, but I'll say something. Tables is one thing we're seriously considering adding. Another thing we're considering adding is the outlining notion, or the idea of being able to create formal outlines. And another option that we're thinking about is just being able to create an outline for a document over in the documents pane on the left here, something more of like a table of contents. So definitely on the forums, please post more details about your needs, a little bit more about your workflow. We know we actually have a lot of folks in the simultaneous interpreting community who use Liquidtext and love it. We've actually already spoken to some, added some features to Liquidtext specifically for their needs. So we'd love to hear more.
Anonymous notes that he saw, or she saw, a feature from Zoom Notes that you can generate a 3D. Will it be available on Liquidtext in the future? 3D of all the files linked to the main document.
A 3D of all the files linked to the main document.
Some kind of a map, I think.
Yeah, a map showing the way all the files are interconnected. I'll tell you, we've thought about some visualizations like that. We don't have anything like that on the roadmap right now, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your use case and your need for it. Please tell us. Maybe we can add something.
Okay. Robert asks, how can I order the excerpts in the workspace in a way that will ensure the order in which they appear in the docx once exported?
So that's a great question. Generally, the way it works is the docx export tries to kind of follow vertical columns, right? So these three guys over here would probably be considered one column, and then these two guys over here would be considered a second column. So the idea is it tries to kind of go through it in that sort of column by column way. If you have things that kind of cross over from one column into the other, that kind of gets its algorithm messed up, and then it may give you much more surprising and unintended results. So the closer your organization is to groups and to columns, the more it will be predictable.
Okay. Nicholas asks whether there will be a video tutorial covering some of these new features in Reference Manager integrations.
That's a great question, Nicholas. Yeah, we probably will be adding one of those in the coming days.
Okay. Anonymous notes, I am writing articles and would like to use Liquidtext to create a workspace that can easily be transformed into the nearly final article in Word, including heading, bold, italic, footnote references. What's the best way forward?
That's a great question. So we have added quite a bit more text formatting, right? So if we create, let's say, a text box here, we have bold, we have font sizes, we have colors. We're planning to add bullet points in the coming months. Now, if you want to compose, I guess the real answer is I'd need to know more about your workflow and your needs, right? If you're, for example, wanting to pull out lots of excerpts and things, then my answer to you is going to be different than if you're mostly writing notes that just cite different parts of the document. So it really depends a lot on your needs and your workflow. But I would say for a lot of people, the easiest way to do it is going to be to pull out the comments and the excerpts, snap them together, and then go to export your notes outline. If you want to go and if you want to kind of write the final form in Liquidtext, again, I'd need to know a little bit more about what your needs are. Like what is your process of writing look like? Is it mostly excerpt based? Is it mostly link based? I would just need to know a little bit more.
Okay. Bernhard asks, I am missing a somewhat normal way of organizing Liquidtext projects. Why can I not manage them using the project files in the file manager?
You can. So if we go to the file manager here, you can organize these into, you can create folders, you can organize these into folders. On the iPad app right now, it does not yet support drag and drop, which is silly. We need to add that, but we just haven't added it yet. On Windows, it does support drag and drop. On the iPad app, you have to just go through the slightly more Byzantine edit, select what you want, and click on move to pick the folder that you want it to move to. But it should certainly will let you do all of these things. If there's additional functionality that you want, definitely please let us know.
Okay. Ulrich wants to make a case for the removal of annotations that was commented on earlier.
Oh,
He mentions that in some cases, a clean manuscript without annotations is needed, but the original PDF was already filled with a large number of remarks, i.e. corrections, and the primary PDF was purged, a kind of a reset to the start before any annotation has been made. So I don't know that you need to answer that, but we have certainly noted it. And
indeed. Thank you for that. And you know, any more detail, I would say definitely please post that on our forum as well. Any more details you can provide about, you know, about your use case, about your industry, about kind of what you see as the larger workflow this is a part of, all that stuff helps us. But thank you for adding the additional clarification.
Stefan asks, what do you think about changing the left side color scheme from light white on gray to white on black or something similar?
Yeah. So there are two answers to that. For that particular color scheme, we haven't considered that one especially, but for the bigger color scheme question of, do we want to support a dark mode or a night mode? We've had a lot of people ask that, but in general, it hasn't been high enough priority to override the other things that we need to add, such as, you know, reference manager integrations, for example, OCR, for example. So right now it's sort of still in that list of things we're thinking about and pending. If it's something that's important to you guys, I would say definitely let us know.
Okay, Rakesh asks, when you copy text from PDF, which is a C programming code, is it possible to use some automatic highlighting for that? For example, syntax highlighting. My work involves a lot of code reading, and sometimes I need to take them out as reference from PDFs, web pages, and books as text.
That's a really interesting idea. No, we don't support that. In fact, I don't think we've ever even considered it. Definitely, please post that on the forum. I'd love to hear how folks react to that, and maybe it's something we could add in the future.
Okay. Paul asks, when talking Markdown, will this address the need for a separate comment section necessary for MD notes in Zotero? And associated with this, is there a way that Liquidtext now converts digital ink handwriting to text automatically without having to do a text box and typing from that?
So two questions there. In terms of let's start with the second one. We've had folks asking for handwriting recognition. There's some conversations about it on our forum, actually. In general, we've not had enough demand to kind of push it over the top to actually building it or getting it. Like, most likely we would be licensing it from one of the handwriting recognition suppliers. But just in general, the demand has not been high enough to push it over the threshold to actually including it, especially since, you know, good handwriting recognition is a highly non-trivial matter. It's expensive. It, you know, consumes a lot of resources one way or another. But I've noticed there has been an uptick lately in folks interested in it. I would say, you know, if you haven't already asked us, ask us, let us know you want it. Let us know your use case. You know, are you talking about converting handwriting into text, or are you talking about just searching? If we think about this in the context of a Markdown export, you know, if the vision is, well, all my handwriting turns into beautiful text when I go to export it to Markdown, that's of course really interesting. But of course, the challenge with that is the number of errors will still probably be higher than you would like. But if that's okay, you know, definitely let us know. We're open to it.
Okay. Paul asks, can you add a redo button along with the undo?
Thank you, Paul. Yes, we probably should add that, and there's some technical reasons why it's going to be a pain in the butt to add it, but we probably should. So I would say, you know, let us know that this is something you want. Maybe send a message to support@liquidtext.net, just indicating this is something that you need, and we'll upvote the feature for you. And you know, if we see other folks asking for it too, hopefully we can add it soon.
Okay, Bernard notes that he is quite dearly missing a feature to fix or freeze elements on the workspace. I move them around so accidentally. So,
Yeah, this is actually a very common request. We get a lot of people asking for this. We've kind of gone in circles on whether we want to do that, because it will substantially impact a lot of other things in the UI if we do that. But I would say we're seriously talking about it now. We're planning on doing making some very significant functionality changes to the workspace later in the year. This will probably be a part of that. But I would say also, definitely let us know, whether on the forums or in an email or something, that this is something you want. Again, a lot of people are asking for it, but noting each one is helpful because it lets us get a sense of scale. And also anything you can tell us about when this problem arises, about your workflow, about the way you use the workspace, will also make it easier for us, so that we kind of make sure that the solution that we build to this is something that that works for as many of our users as possible.
okay. Just a second here. Paul wants to know, does the new import from Zotero function negate the iPad import report function through iCloud between a Zotero database on my computer and my iPad for annotating the return to Zotero via the new Zot file capability?
I would say this is independent of that. If you pulled a file in from, if you let's see how to phrase the answer. If you pull something in basically through Apple's document picker, whether it's going through Zot file or whatever, then in principle that should work well for that should nicely support us being able to send content back through the document picker mechanism back to the original source. But the thing is, you won't have the metadata, right? So like, all the tags and the abstract and all that good stuff that comes through our custom Mendeley import probably would not, as far as I know, would not be available if you did it through, something like this. Simply because I don't believe Apple provides any way of getting that type of metadata. Whereas our proprietary system knows how to talk to Mendeley directly, get all the metadata, push back all the metadata, and all those goodies.
Okay, Nicholas asks, can you please explain how large is the workspace? What he means specifically is, how can I know that an A4 area will be filled? I get a bit confused when doing excerpts and mind maps.
Yeah, for sure. Let me show you a little bit about that. So we go over here, open, just to be a little clear, we expand the workspace toolbar, go to configure workspace, and now we can select the pattern and we can select the rectangle sizes. So let's say we say the rectangle size is A4, 8.5 by 11. We'll call it loose leaf. We'll set a little border and done. And there you are. And just as long as things are staying in each of these squares, then you know exactly where they'll come out when you do your PDF export.
Okay, that concludes our Q&A, just exactly at 10:59:39.
Perfect.
So our timing worked out perfectly. For those of you who are looking for who are going to be looking for the forum invites and recording data, it will come out later this afternoon. And want to thank you very much for participating in today's webinar. And we look forward to communicating with you again soon. Thanks much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.